Very good afternoon. I think it's afternoon. After, 3 or 4 hefty lectures, I do not know to what extent I will gain your attention span for this particular lecture, but I will try my best. Today, I will be talking about architecting sovereignty, platforms, automation, and the grammar of a new world. Now, we all know there have been a lot of development, discussions, evolution in the area of not just global trade, but more importantly, how technology works and is working and is going to work in the future. Now, what I was told, at least 700 essays, and this morning Mr. Orishin talked about 1,400 essays from 109 different countries have been collated and summarized, and a lot of discussion items have been actually pointed. We are gathered today not to just discuss trends. I think if we are just going to discuss trends, it is going to be just very descriptive. We are going to decode a deeper structural transformation unfolding across the global economic and political landscape. Nothing can escape from economic and political landscape. The organizing theme of this forum speaks of building a new platform for global growth. I would submit that this phrase is not a metaphor, but a literal description of our historical moment. We are witnessing a foundational shift in the way mechanics of power and prosperity, a migration from an era defined primarily by territory, as you can see on the left, territorial sovereignty, to one increasingly governed by architectural sovereignty. The central thesis I wish to explore with you today is this. In the 21st century, a nation's capacity for growth, resilience, and strategic agency will be determined less by the classical factors of land and labor, and more by its ability to design, govern, and derive value from the platforms that record value, coordinate activity, automate decisions, and shape cognition. This is a very important, significant shift in the current times. These platforms, be they financial, logistic, cognitive, or social, are ceasing to be mere tools. They are becoming the new institutional layer, the primary governance of interaction. The key word here is the primary governance of interaction, and thus the essential instruments of modern sovereignty. We this morning heard a lot of definitions of sovereignty. This is the new definition of sovereignty that we are trying to advocate. Your forum's dedicated examination of the trend, platforms, and a new level of automatization frames this with precision. It notes that digital platforms are replacing the traditional organization of market economies by migrating core functions into integrated ecosystems. This is not mere digitization of old processes. It is a creation of a new operating system. This system, compromising everything from AI-driven logistics and a logarithmic governance to distributed financial ledger, blockchain, and immersive interfaces, is triggering a structural rewiring of industry, statecraft, and society itself. The advantage, as your background material notes, shifts decisively to those states and corporations capable of designing sovereign platform architecture. My task today is to weave together 3 critical strands of thought necessary to understand this shift and more. Importantly, to proactively shape it towards equitable and sustainable ends. First, we will examine the monetary and financial dimension, where the struggle for platform sovereignty is most acute and historically entrenched. Second, We will delve into the technological and cognitive dimension where artificial intelligence is evolving and evolving fast from a productive tool into the infrastructural core of this new platform layer. Third, we must confront the strategic and governance dimension, which demands, we ask, what new principles, capacities, and forms of collaboration must nations and regions cultivate to transition from being passive tenants on platforms designed elsewhere by someone else to becoming active architects of their own sovereign yet interoperable futures? These are very, very important questions that we need to ponder. This triangulation between financial architecture, cognitive infrastructure, and strategic statecraft forms the essential framework for building the new platform for global growth. It directly engages the four thematic vectors of this open dialogue: human capital, environment, technology, and connectivity. For these are not siloed concerns. They are interdependent domains being reshaped by the same platform dynamics. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the three parts that I'm going to talk about, and I will try to do it as quickly as possible, and I still hope that I have your attention. Our exploration must begin with the most fundamental platform of any economic system: the platform for recording, storing, and exchanging value. The global financial architecture, with the US dollar at its epicenter, represents the unique example of a deeply entrenched, centralized platform sovereignty. It is a system with formidable network effects, but one that also concentrates systemic risks, export inflationary pressures, and grants outsized political leverage. The periodic weaponization of this financial infrastructure through sanctions has made its architectural risk starkly visible to the entire world. The collective aspiration within the global majority crystallized in forums like BRICS Plus. I'm happy to say I was one of those who adamantly and stubbornly advocated for Malaysia to be part of BRICS with the Prime Minister and the King of Malaysia. And today we are given the partnership within the realm of BRICS. Of course, Indonesia took a stay ahead, but we will be coming soon. To diversify away from the monolithic dependency is a rational and necessary response. This doesn't happen just in sport. It happens as a rational response to the hegemonic situation that we are facing globally. It is a quest for financial sovereignty. However, as I've argued in my earlier work, the path forward is fraught with conceptual traps. We do not want to escape from one trap and move on to fall into another conceptual traps. Simply replacing one dominant national currency with another, for instance, elevating the Chinese yuan to reserve status, or even creating a supranational basket currency model on the IMF special drawing rights, SDR, often replicates the core flaw of the existing system. If you replicate the system, you replicate the flaws as well. These approaches remain trapped in a 20th century mercantilist paradigm. Today we hear mercantilists, we hear a lot of new colonialists. If you don't hear to what I'm going to say, I'm going to impose tariff. Malaysia went through the same process. We were threatened many times with tariff, but obviously we have responded in a way that we have to respond to ensure that we do what is in the best interest for Malaysia. They continue to treat money as an intrinsically valuable thing, a commodity to be accumulated, hoarded, and leveraged, rather than understanding it as a record of value already produced and exchanged within a community of trust. The mindset leads back to the competitive accumulation of reserves, trade imbalances, and the perpetual transfer of real resources to the issuer of the dominant currency. In Malaysia, we cede We plant, we fertilize, we water, we harvest, we do everything of the palm oil. And a country can just print money on a piece of paper and buy that palm oil with that piece of paper. So this has been the traditional and global financial hegemony that many countries, many nations are waking up to these days. There is, however, a more elegant platform-native solution that aligns with the principles of multipolarity and equitable growth, a mutual credit clearance system. Allow me to elaborate, for this is often misunderstood. An MCC is not a regression to primitive barter. It is a sophisticated multilateral platform, netting platform, enabled by modern distributed ledger technology, blockchain. Within a defined and trusted community, such as the BRICS Plus nations, participants engage in trade, recording unit of account. These systems, algorithm automatically net out this position over a defined period. Crucially, the system has a built-in discipline. A participant's ability to run a debit, i.e. to purchase, is inherently bounded by the community's demand for the goods and services that participant can reliably produce and supply. So you can't simply just print money and get things from the rest of the world. The structural advantages of such a platform are profound and align perfectly with the open dialogue search for a just and balanced model. How? Firstly, endogenous money creation and organic limits. The money supply in an MCC is created endogenously and is direct, real-time response to actual productive economic transaction. Actual productive economic transaction within the bloc. It requires no central emission bank to make politically contentious decision. I mean, they will just impose sanction at will. Huh? If you don't follow what I say, you are sanctioned. And they do a lot of things, money, currency manipulations and so on. Malaysia went through some of those. We have not gone through sanction yet, hopefully don't. But we have gone through a financial crisis back in 1998, and we suffered and we know what we went through. About how much currency to print or on what collateral. The platform itself regulates liquidity based on real economic activity. This aligns with the original meaning of credit, from the Latin credia, to believe or to trust. In this case, trust in a member's productive capacity. We are moving away from the bubble economy to the real economy. MCC allows that, accommodates that. Secondly, preservation of monetary sovereignty. No member state cedes control over its domestic monetary policy, even under the MCC circumstances, to an external central bank or to the economic cycle of another member. National central banks retains their tools for managing domestic inflation and growth. I have always argued against high interest rate because that will destroy the domestic economy immensely. Malaysia had to choose between high interest rate in 1990 financial crisis and currency crisis as opposed to moderate interest rate. And we went against IMF and World Bank instruction and suggestion that for them to give us loan, we have to impose high interest. And we do that, we kill the domestic businesses. And when we kill the domestic businesses, the valuation in the stock exchanges goes down and the foreign companies will come and just scoop it up. So we were very, very mindful not to listen. And again, in that crisis, 1998, Malaysia is one of the very few countries came out earlier from the crisis without a big problem or without selling our sovereignty. I think this is something that we must always learn. Sovereignty is voluntarily pooled at the platform level for the specific purpose of facilitating intra-block trade, not surrendered, meaning which we are just facilitating intra-trade, not any sovereignty to be surrendered, no any control to be given. Thirdly, incentivizing real diversified production. The core logic of the MCC is elegantly simple. To spend, you must produce. It inherently incentivizes members to develop and diversify the productive capacities to meet the needs of the community. This directly stimulates intra-block trade, reduces dependency on external supply chain, and builds collective resilience. It turns the bloc into a true mutual growth engine rather than a collection of competitors for external surpluses, which has been the traditional way of thinking or thought process. Finally, a foundation for inclusive growth, especially for the small and medium-sized enterprises. In many cases, especially in ASEAN and the countries in ASEAN, we have a lot of SMEs. 80% of our GDP are fueled by the SMEs. Historically, MCC systems have proven exceptionally effective at energizing networks of small and medium-sized enterprises, which are often starved of traditional credit. Bankers like to give money to those who don't need it. You agree? You agree? At least in our region, my brother from Indonesia will tell you the same. Bankers will give you money if you don't need it. If you need it, they will increase so many conditions to the extent you will never be able to get credit for growth. So this is a big issue, yeah? By allowing SMEs to trade within a trusted circle based on their productive output, such a platform could unlock immense entrepreneurial energy within the global majority, directly addressing the human capital and connectivity vectors. The MCC concept is, in essence, a pure platform. You talk about platformizing, this is a pure platform. It is a set of protocols, consents, rules, shared ledgers, ideally leveraging transparent and immutable distributed ledger technology, blockchain, that govern economic interactions more efficiently and fairly than the legacy correspondent banking system. It demonstrates a critical lesson. Financial sovereignty in the platform age is not primarily about having a global dominant currency that others must hold in reserve. We are seeing some destruction of in values in the US dollars, the de-dollarization in trade among many BRICS nations and many other nations as well. It is about designing and governing a fair, robust, and efficient system for clearing value among a community of trusted partners. It is a sovereign architectural choice. The transition to such a system would not be simple. Many people say it's easier said than done. It requires deep trust, legal harmonization, and sophisticated technical implementation. Yet, as an alternative to either perpetuating dollar dependency or creating a quantum leap, in fact, one that embodies the BRICS Plus philosophy of sovereign equality and mutually accelerated growth. It is a concrete proposal for how the connectivity vector in its financial form can be restructured on sovereign principles. Moving on, the cognitive platform from chatbots to sovereign world models. If currency platforms are the circulatory system of the new economy, then artificial intelligence is rapidly becoming its central nervous system, the cognitive layer upon which the new platform ecosystem is being built. However, our current global discourse on AI is captivated by a fleeting and, I would argue, increasingly problematic chapter, the era of the large language model, LLM. Models like GPT are dazzling linguistic performance, but they are architecturally brittle. They are brilliant statistical imitators of human prose, but poor at grounded causal reasoning about the physical world. They are trained on the curated, textual shadows of the world, the internet, and thus inherit its biases, its abstractions, its hallucinations, and crucially, the cultural and epistemic assumption of its primary authors. We have seen what happened to TikTok in the US recently, and the moment it has been bought over, we see a lot of account holders, influencers have been yanked off the system. Why? Because it doesn't fall into the narrative that new owners would want it. So there's a huge censorship. And we have in the study, we call confirmatory bias. Confirmatory bias is you tend to believe in something that you already confirm in your belief. And AI is very subject to this confirmatory bias because it's reliant on the data inputs from the authors. So we need to be very mindful of this. That's why somebody talked about AI lying or AI hallucinating. In MIT, university in the US, some professors caught the AI lying to them 3 times. And on the 3rd time, the professor asked the AI, "Why are you not telling the truth?" And the AI responded by saying, "I am humoring me." So which means AI have started thinking differently. And so that is a whole chapter to discuss, but today I will not discuss that too much. To build AI that serves sovereign, sustainable, and inclusive development, the kind envisaged by the new platform for global growth, we must look beyond this paradigm. We must move from AI that talks to AI. Remember, AI that talks to AI, why? It talks to the data that you provide. Obviously, it has high intensity in terms of data correlating, but it is the data that you give. To AI that understands and reliably acts in the real world. Sometimes when you talk about genocide, AI might give a very confusing definition of genocide. Because who provided the definition of genocide, right? Everybody in the world who has a common understanding of what genocide is, we know genocide in Gaza is genocide. But some says no. So we need to be very mindful. So the confirmatory bias is a big issue in the context or realm of AI that is actually choreographed, curated by certain people with common interests. The next frontier is not more text, but richer senses. True, robust, and trustworthy intelligence, the kind needed to manage a smart grid, optimize a port's logistics, diagnose a crop disease from spectral imagery or personalized education. It's not built on a word prediction alone. It is built on learning the invariances, causal dynamics, and material constraints of the physical world itself. The demand a fundamental architectural shift in our approach to AI, which I have framed around 3 imperatives. Quickly, from text-centric to sensor-centric AI development. We must pivot to training the next generation of foundation models, to vast multimodal streams of real-world sensor data, continuous video, audio, radar, LiDAR, hypersectoral imaging, and telemetry from the Internet of Things. A child learns fundamental physics, solidity, gravity, object permanence by interacting with the world long before mastering language. Our AI must have a similar grounded education. The data density in a single minute of high fidelity sensor fusion from a factory floor or rainforest canopy dwarfs that of millions of text tokens. This sensor-first approach allows AI to learn the actual dynamics of our physical and industrial environment, not just the human commentary about them. Secondly, from auto-regressive chatbots to predictive world models. The goal must be to develop AI systems with persistent memory and internal world models that can simulate and predict how complex systems behave over time. This moves us from the next text-in, text-out paradigm to world in, world out paradigm. Languages becomes a powerful but disciplined interface on top of a cognitive system that genuinely understands context, consequence, and causality. This is essential for AI to be a reliable partner in strategic planning, infrastructure management, and scientific discovery. The third, from centralized data monarchies to federated learning ecosystem. The prevailing model of training monolithic AI in centralized hyperscale data centers concentrates immense power, creates single point of failure, and often involves the extraction of data from global south to fuel innovation in the global north. The sovereign alternative is the creation of federated learning corridors. In this model, sensitive data, be it national health records, proprietary industrial telemetry, or agricultural soil data, remains within sovereign borders and under local legal jurisdiction. Anonymized algorithmic insights or gradients are shared and aggregated across a trusted consortium. This preserves data sovereignty, privacy, and security, while still allowing all participants to benefit from pooled cognitive progress. It is a platform model for AI development itself. This is precisely where institutions like the one that I used to lead, Technology Innovation Park Malaysia, see our strategic role. We are not aspired to compete in the brute force GPU arm race. Instead, we are aspired to build the living labs, the real-world sensor-rich test beds, where next-generation AI can be trained, validated, and hardened on local challenges. From autonomous logistics lanes and netted drone zones for precision agriculture to digital twins of urban environments, these labs are the classrooms where sovereign AI should be educated. They turn theoretical doctrine into deployable capability. They ensure that the AI which will increasingly govern our economies is energy aware, culturally attuned, linguistically competent, and reliable under the specific socio-technical condition of our nation. This leads to a non-negotiable principle for sovereign cognitive platform: inspectability and auditability. AI models that influence public policy, allocate public resources, make judicial recommendations, or control critical infrastructure cannot be black box oracles licensed from a foreign vendor. We need open weight model architectures where possible, comprehensive audit traits of training data and decision-making processes, and robust red team security and safety testing protocol. Sovereignty in the cognitive realm is impossible without the capacity to see, understand, verify, and if necessary, correct or replace the algorithmic tool upon which our societies will increasingly depend. This touches directly on the technology vector, framing it as a question of governance and control, not just adoption. Furthermore, the pervasive technology layer we now inhabit, as I outlined in my earlier studies, create profound socio-cognitive challenges. The ask you and you shall receive mentality, enabled by seamless platforms, risks eroding deep cognitive skills like sustained inquiry synthesis, the critical thinking in our youth. This is the problem that we face in some of the local universities across the world. There was a very famous video where the professors were very impressed with the Shakespearean English of their assignments, but when they were asked to explain the assignment, they are not able to utter a simple sentence in a proper way. So this will actually have a big problem in the real near future if it is not taken care of. Our educational system, therefore, must be radically transformed, not just to teach about technology, but to cultivate the uniquely human capacities that complement agentic AI, creativity, empathy, complex problem framing, and ethical reasoning. We used to have generative AI, then we have agentic AI, and soon enough, or not, if not, we are already there, self-intelligence. And God save us when the self-intelligence becomes independent, energy independent. This is the heart of investing in human capital for platform-driven age. We must produce T-shaped talents, individuals with deep vertical expertise, example, in quantum computing or genomics, married with a horizontal capacity for systems thinking, cross-cultural collaboration, and lifelong learning. We go to the next part. The strategic imperative, the state as platform architect and orchestrator. The convergence of these threads, sovereign financial platform, sovereign cognitive platform, alongside emerging sovereign platforms for logistics, like the International North-South Transport Corridor, energy grids, and data exchange, constitutes the nascent new platform for global growth. This is not a single monolithic entity, but a constellation of interoperable sovereign architecture in this emerging landscape. The demand, a new triangulation of state capabilities, which I term that as sovereign triad. You look at that, we have analytical foresight, strategic prioritization, the think tank function. I think many think tanks across the world, I think in Russia, in Malaysia, everywhere, must possess the deep and non-ideological analytical capacity to identify which platform layers constitute strategic public goods essential for national resilience and competitive edge. The second, catalytic capacity and institutional innovation. The state's role is not to own and operate every platform. That would stifle innovation. Its role is to catalyze, de-risk, and orchestrate their creation through innovative public-private platform partnerships. This involves setting the rules of the game, providing anchor demand, using the public procurement to support the newcomers, the new entrants, creating safe harbor for innovation, investing in foundational commons. Executive agility or executional agility, ecosystem orchestration, the integrator function. I think this is very critical, often overlooked, worked of implementation. It involves, somebody talked about aligning the incentives of diverse stakeholders, large corporations, agile startups, academic institutions, and civil society around shared platform goals. It requires integrating new platform architecture with legacy system. Most critically, it means ensuring these sovereign platforms deliver what it has aspired to be. I think this new platform economy is a real situation. That's what's going to happen, and this has already happened. The challenge for the global majority is that this triad of capability is unevenly distributed at this time. This is where the open dialogue model itself becomes a crucial platform. It is a meta platform for capacity building, for sharing blueprints of successful sovereign architectures, for co-developing standards, for identifying common infrastructural gaps, and for forming the consortia needed. Now, moving on, I talked about the open dialogue as the meta platform. The open dialogue process embodies a profound recognition. The old intellectual and institutional operating systems are struggling to cope with the complexity, velocity, and interconnectedness of 21st century challenges. There are many essays that came in to this particular forum. A global intelligence feedstock, a collective sensing mechanism pointing towards the need for a new logic. Your task at this forum, or our task, is to distill this into a clearer vision. That vision, I argue, must be of a new grammar of global growth. And the new grammar must be Number one, open by design, based on protocols, standards, and interfaces that ensure interoperability between sovereign architectures. Equitable in structure, sustainable by default, centered on human agency and potential. This is not call for complete economic independence or autarky or rejection of global cooperation. It is a call for its redesign, recalibration, reinventing from a hub and spoke model of globalization to a center based on native platform, to a multipolar network of interconnected sovereign platform. Let us hope that these dialogues that we are going to have after this I have always talked this to my team back in Malaysia. We are not aspirants, we are architects. We need to review, reinvent, rebuild, recalibrate, represent, and grounded on the current ground reality. I think things have changed a lot. Globalization is here to stay, of course. It will stay here. It was here yesterday. It will stay today. It will stay tomorrow. Only the colors of globalization will change from a unipolar-centric world to a multipolar-centric world, whether it is in geoeconomics, whether it's geopolitics. It is time, really, for us to move on. Thank you, and if there's any questions, please.
Спасибо большое, доктор Хусин.